What if wisdom was not a concept, but a voice, calling in the streets, echoing in your conscience, warning you just before you fall? What if the ancient path was never truly forgotten, but simply buried under noise, pride, and the lust for self? In the stillness of the book of Proverbs lies something more than clever sayings. It breathes. It whispers truths from beyond time, beckoning you to choose between two roads, one narrow, drenched in light, the other wide, paved in whispers of ruin. This is not a manual for success. It is a mirror, a sword, a plea, and above all, a judgment. In a world drunk on information, where can one find true knowledge? Solomon begins not with theories, but with fear, holy fear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Not fear as in dread, but reverence, a trembling respect that anchors the soul in truth. To fear God is to understand your place in the cosmos. Dust, yet beloved, finite, yet accountable. Without this foundation, all learning becomes hollow, all progress a facade. The book of Proverbs does not flatter, it confronts. It speaks to the naive and to the fool alike, not with condemnation, but with urgency. Like a father grasping his child before he runs into traffic, the words come with weight. "Turn at my rebuke," cries wisdom, "and I will pour out my spirit upon you." But who listens anymore when foolishness has become entertainment? There is a danger in ignoring discipline. Subtle at first, then sudden like a flood. To reject wisdom is to sow seeds of calamity, watered by pride and harvested in silence. How many lives have perished not from lack of opportunity, but from the refusal to be taught? The simple mock correction, but the wise cling to it like armor. In the end, disaster doesn't shout, it whispers, "You were warned." Solomon writes with fire hidden beneath ink. His words are not quaint moral tidbits, but divine ultimatums. The choice is not between good advice and bad habits, but between life and death. Wisdom stands at the gates, crying out, not with manipulation, but invitation. But the gates will not remain open forever. And so the book begins, not with comfort, but with a challenge. Will you listen to correction or love your own destruction? This is not a riddle for philosophers. It is a map for the desperate. The fear of the Lord is not the end. It is the door. Enter or remain in darkness. What if wisdom is buried, not lost? Solomon says, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasure, it's not given to the casual, not handed to the lazy. Wisdom must be mined. It lives in the quiet disciplines, in the turning away from the crowd, in the long obedience. And it rewards not the brilliant, but the diligent. The world offers quick pleasures, instant validation, but wisdom offers depth, protection, guidance, a path through the storm. God promises that if we cry out for understanding, He will answer. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright and becomes a shield to those who walk in integrity. This is not myth, it is covenant. But the path of wisdom is narrow, and its enemies are many. Solomon warns of dark influences, men with twisted words, women with seductive lies. Their feet run toward destruction, and they lure others into their ruin. Without discernment, what feels like love becomes a trap. What looks like success becomes a tomb. The seductress in Proverbs is not just the woman. She is a symbol of temptation, of shortcuts, of every offer that bypasses God. She flatters, she invites, but her house sinks into Sheol. To follow her is to abandon your future for a moment of pleasure. Wisdom stands in contrast, honest, demanding, but eternal. If you walk with wisdom, you will dwell safely. Your steps will be guarded, your soul will be anchored. Discretion will preserve you, and understanding will keep you, but only if you seek it, like treasure, like breath. The choice remains yours. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. These words cut against every modern instinct. We are trained to trust ourselves, but Solomon says, your heart is not a compass. It is a battleground. To trust God fully is to surrender control, to abandon self-wisdom. Only then does the path become straight. This chapter is soaked in promises, protection, healing, abundance, but every promise is tethered to obedience. Honor the Lord with your wealth, and your barns will be filled. Do not despise correction, for whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. These are not divine bargains, they are divine patterns. Wisdom is not just what you know, it's who you become. Solomon describes wisdom as a tree of life, a return to Eden, a restoration of order. She brings peace, joy, and long life to those who embrace her. By wisdom, the Lord founded the earth. So what makes you think you can live without it? To reject her is to live out of sync with reality. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it. Do not plot evil against your neighbor. These commands are not just moral, they're protective. A life of integrity is a fortress. A crooked life collapses in on itself. God's curse is on the wicked, but his favor rests on the righteous. Do not envy the violent, for their day is coming. The chapter ends not with threat, but with invitation. Wisdom is not elusive. She is near, but you must trust. Not partially, not conditionally. You must surrender. Only then will you live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget. This is not merely advice, it's an inheritance. A father pleading with his son, not with cold logic, but with fire in his bones. Solomon speaks like a man who has seen both paths, the one of light and the one of shadows, and he knows where each one ends. There is a road that gleams with righteousness, but it's not crowded. It belongs to those who treasure correction, who walk when others sprint, who think before they speak. They fall, yes, but they rise again because wisdom lifts them. Their steps are guided by something unseen, something sacred. The world calls them fools. Heaven calls them sons. But the wicked also walk, and their path is darker than night, so dark they don't know what makes them stumble. They laugh at sin and mock the holy, not knowing judgment trails behind them like a shadow. Solomon warns, avoid it. Do not pass by it. Turn away. Your soul is too precious to gamble with destruction. Guard your heart, for from it flow the springs of life. Not your money, not your name, your heart. What you love will shape what you become. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Let your steps be sure. The path is narrow, but it leads to glory. The chapter ends with a sacred charge. Choose your road. Not tomorrow, not when you're older, now. Because every step is shaping your eternity. Wisdom does not shout forever. There comes a silence, and then the reckoning.
There is a voice that flatters, but behind it is death. Solomon opens this chapter with a cry, a warning against the seductress. She is beautiful, persuasive, and fatal. Her lips drip honey, but her feet descend into the grave. The pleasure is real, but the cost is your soul. She represents more than adultery. She is the embodiment of every temptation that seems sweet but ends in sorrow. The hidden message is this: not all that feels good is good. We trade eternal joy for a moment of escape, and it never satisfies. Solomon exposes the lie with brutal clarity. Drink water from your own cistern, he says. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Fidelity is not just about romance, it is about covenant. To break it is to unravel the very structure of your life. God sees every hidden thing, and nothing escapes his gaze. Your actions echo far beyond your intentions. The man who ignores wisdom finds ruin suddenly. His body wasted, his reputation destroyed, his legacy crumbled. And he says, too late, how I hated discipline. This is the haunting cry of those who thought they'd never fall. But every fall begins with a step. This chapter is not about guilt, it is about mercy. It warns so that you might live. The path of pleasure is short, the path of wisdom is deep. One leads to shame in the night, the other to peace in the morning. Choose the voice you listen to. Not all destruction comes from others. Sometimes we dig our own pits. Solomon turns now to the internal dangers: laziness, deceit, pride. The one who makes careless promises becomes enslaved by his own words. The sluggard folds his hands and waits, but poverty rushes upon him like a thief. Life punishes those who ignore responsibility. He describes a man who schemes with hand signs and secret plots, a whisperer who divides friends, a liar who smiles with venom. God detests these things: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run to evil, a false witness, and worst of all, one who sows discord among brothers. These are not mere moral errors, they are abominations. They fracture families, ruin cities, and mock the very image of God. The world may celebrate cunning, but heaven sees treachery. Wisdom calls for integrity, for honesty, even when no one sees. For it is not men who ultimately judge, but the Lord. Solomon returns to the voice of a father: bind my words on your heart. They will guide you when you walk, guard you when you sleep, and speak when you wake. For the commandment is a lamp, and teaching is light. Reproofs of instruction are the way of life. The alternative is not freedom, but fire. Do not be deceived. Sin never leaves you where it found you. It costs more than you expected and stays longer than you planned. But wisdom protects, corrects, and restores. If you listen, if you humble yourself before it's too late.
She waits at the window, not just a woman, but a spirit. Solomon paints her with terrifying precision, persuasive words, a heart full of deceit, feet that never stay at home. She is dressed not in lust, but in spiritual death disguised as delight. She whispers promises of secret pleasure, of stolen moments, and many follow her like an ox to the slaughter. The young man lacks sense. He walks by her street at twilight, where shadows stretch and truth fades. Her kisses taste like freedom, but her bed is a grave. He doesn't know he's trading eternity for an evening. Solomon's voice trembles with warning. Don't follow her. This seductress is more than lust. She is culture, addiction, spiritual apathy. She sings the song of easy pleasure and instant escape. She speaks to every soul that wants to forget pain without confronting it. But wisdom says what's hidden will be revealed, and no sin is secret forever. Write my words on the tablet of your heart, says the Father. Let them be your sister, your friend, closer than temptation, because without them you will not see her trap until it's too late. She's led many mighty men to ruin. You are not the exception. In this chapter, the stakes are eternal. To ignore wisdom is not just foolish, it's fatal. Hell is not always sudden. It seduces slowly, one compromise at a time. But so does wisdom, quietly, gently, faithfully calling. The question is, who will you follow?
Wisdom is not hiding, she is crying aloud. At the crossroads, at the city gates, in the public square, she lifts her voice. She calls to the simple, the naive, the proud. Receive my instruction, and not silver, knowledge rather than gold. She offers something this world cannot counterfeit, eternal truth. She speaks of prudence, of counsel, of sound judgment. With her is strength. By her, kings rule and princes decree justice. She was there before creation, beside God as a master craftsman. She rejoiced in his presence and delighted in the sons of men. Wisdom is not just a trait, it is divine. Her invitation is open, but time-sensitive. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my doors. To reject her is to love death. To embrace her is to find life and favor from the Lord. This is no exaggeration, it's cosmic law. Here, wisdom takes on flesh. She walks through history, shaping nations, exposing lies, healing the broken. She is not abstract, she is practical, moral, sacred. She reveals the character of God and the path of the righteous. To ignore her is to declare war against your own soul. So she calls. Again, will you hear her? Or will you let the noise of pride drown her out once more? Every day she stands at your door, offering life, but she will not force it open.
Two women prepare a feast. One is wisdom, the other folly. Both call out to the simple. Both offer a meal, but their tables lead to two very different endings. Wisdom builds her house with pillars, strength, order, beauty. Folly sits in a doorway, loud and ignorant, inviting death with a smile. Wisdom's table is prepared with discipline, truth, and life. She says, leave your simple ways and live, but only the humble will accept her invitation. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. There is no wisdom without correction. Folly mimics her rival, using charm to mask chaos. She says, stolen water is sweet, but her guests do not know the dead are there. Beneath her laughter is rot. Behind her curtains, a grave. This chapter is a final test. Two voices calling. You must choose correction or comfort, reverence or rebellion. There is no neutral ground. Even silence is a choice, and every choice becomes a destiny. So who are you dining with? The voice of wisdom still cries out, but so does folly, and both sound beautiful until the end. Only one leads home.
The book shifts now. No longer poetic warnings, but sharp contrasts. Every verse becomes a blade. The righteous versus the wicked. One builds, the other destroys. One walks in light, the other stumbles in shadows. This is not just behavior, it is identity. You are known by the fruit you bear. The memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. This is legacy, not built in a day, but in thousands of small decisions. Each choice is a brick, each word a seed, and in time, your name will speak louder than your voice. The righteous man speaks little, but his words nourish. The fool multiplies words, revealing his emptiness. What we say reveals who we are. Lips can build cities or burn them down. Wisdom teaches the tongue, but only if the heart is willing. Lazy hands bring poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Yet Solomon sees deeper. This isn't about money, it's about purpose. The fool sleeps during harvest, while the wise gather with urgency. Time is limited, seasons end, and those who waste them will starve. Blessings crown the head of the righteous. They are a shelter in the storm, a light in the valley. But the wicked are like tumbleweed in the wind. They may rise quickly, but fall just as fast. For wisdom builds slowly and endures forever.
A false balance is an abomination to the Lord. Not just unfair scales, but unjust lives. God sees what we call minor compromises as abominations because he sees the hearts behind them and the ripple they cause in others. Integrity guides the upright. It is their compass. But the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. They say one thing and live another. They prosper for a moment and vanish like mist. For God will not be mocked. Riches won't save you in the day of wrath. Only righteousness delivers from death. The world measures success in gold, but heaven weighs character. Solomon reminds us, what you build without wisdom, you will lose without warning. It is not what you have, but who you are that matters in the end. The generous soul will be made rich. He who waters others will be watered himself. This is the paradox of the kingdom. Give, and you gain. Hold tightly, and you lose everything. Greed devours the greedy, but mercy multiplies. The chapter ends with an image. The righteous flourish like a tree of life. They win souls. They reflect eternity. But the wicked? They are uprooted, swept away by their own schemes. And so Solomon asks in silence, what will your life yield?
Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but to hate correction is to love ignorance. Solomon speaks now like a surgeon, cutting, not to harm, but to heal. Wisdom is painful before it is beautiful. Correction is a doorway, not a prison. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of wicked schemes is condemned. No one builds a life without foundation. If your roots are shallow, the first storm will reveal the truth. But the righteous, their roots go deep. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright delivers them. Speech is sacred. It can either rescue or ruin. Fools speak without filter, but the wise weigh every word. For every sentence carries weight, eternal weight. The diligent will rule, but the lazy will be put to forced labor. Laziness is not just inactivity, it is resistance to purpose. The righteous care for their animals. The wicked are cruel even to what depends on them. Wisdom touches everything. Work, rest, relationships, even compassion. No part of life is too small for holiness. In the end, Solomon returns to what endures. The root of the righteous yields fruit. Not applause, not trends, but lasting impact. A wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands, the foolish tears it down.
A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker doesn't listen, even when disaster is near. Solomon opens this chapter with a bitter truth. Wisdom doesn't shout forever. Eventually, it turns silent, and those who ignored it will eat the fruit of their defiance. The soul of the lazy craves and gets nothing, but the diligent are richly supplied. This is not about ambition, it's about alignment. Are your desires anchored in truth or driven by impulse? Because longing alone does not produce life. Discipline does. Guard your mouth and you preserve your life. Open wide your lips and ruin rushes in. The tongue builds or breaks. There is no middle ground. Words don't just fade, they echo. In heaven, in memory, in judgment. The righteous hate lies, but the wicked bring shame. A faithful witness speaks truth, but a false witness breathes deceit. God doesn't just hear what you say, He weighs what you meant. The fool flaunts his folly like a badge, while the wise wear humility like armor. Discipline may sting, but its fruit is honor. Poverty and shame come to those who ignore correction, but the one who accepts rebuke walks with kings. Solomon's message grows urgent. Life or death is shaped by what you welcome into your soul. A wise woman builds her house, but folly tears it down with her own hands. This is not just about gender, it's about intention. Every day you're either building something holy or undoing it silently. The question is not if you're building, but what. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. This verse hangs over the chapter like a sword. Not all confidence is wisdom.
Not all peace is truth. We must measure our paths by eternity, not ease. The simple believe everything, but the prudent consider their steps. Fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning one from the snares of death. In a culture drowning in noise, wisdom listens deeply, then moves slowly, because haste leads to wounds. He who oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. Generosity is not charity, it is worship. The Lord watches how you treat the invisible, and he repays in kind. Solomon ends the chapter with this: righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. This is not about policies, it's about posture. When a people abandon wisdom, destruction follows. But when they fear the Lord, even their enemies find peace.
A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Solomon exposes the battlefield behind every conversation. Words are not harmless, they are arrows, and some wounds never heal. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, watching the good and the evil. This truth silences pride and comforts the afflicted. Nothing is truly hidden, not gossip, not cruelty, not secret kindness. God sees and remembers. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. A soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue breaks the spirit. Speech is sacred. It can resurrect or destroy. Better a little with fear of the Lord than great treasure with turmoil. Solomon flips the world's values upside down. Peace isn't in abundance, it's in alignment with God. The house of the righteous may be simple, but it echoes with eternal joy. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. Not all worship is accepted. Some is rejected. God doesn't want performance. He wants purity, and only wisdom can lead us there.
The plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. Solomon pulls back the curtain on human will. You may think you're in control, but heaven still speaks last. Even your best-laid plans are subject to divine inspection. All a person's ways seem pure in their own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. Not just what you do, but why you do it. Motives are invisible to men, but not to God. And every action will be judged by its origin. Commit your works to the Lord, and your plans will be established. This is not permission to manipulate God. It is a surrender of control. God resists pride, but gives grace to the humble. To align with Him is to walk safely, even in darkness. The Lord has made everything for its purpose, even the wicked for the day of disaster. This verse is chilling. God does not lose control, even over evil. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Better is little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. Solomon knows success without virtue is ruin in disguise, and a crown without wisdom is just a noose. For the Lord weighs kings and servants alike. The crucible is for silver, and the furnace is for gold. But the Lord tests hearts. You are not shaped in ease, but in trial. Pain reveals what comfort conceals, and fire, though feared, purifies. A wicked person listens to evil lips. A liar pays attention to destructive tongue. Corruption spreads through ears before it moves hands. So guard what you hear, because seeds of poison bear fruit in time. He who justifies the wicked and condemns the righteous, both are detestable to the Lord. This is justice inverted, a society turned upside down.
and it invites divine judgment. A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity. True loyalty is not proven in comfort, but in crisis. Solomon hints that relationships are holy ground. To betray them is to grieve the God who designed them. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent. Wisdom is not always in speech, but in restraint. Better to hold back than to expose a foolish heart, because once spoken, words cannot be gathered, and some silences are sacred.
A man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. He rages against all wise judgment. Solomon begins with a warning against prideful solitude. Isolation is not strength, it is rebellion cloaked in independence, and it leads to ruin. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, only in expressing his opinion. This is the age we live in, loud but shallow. Everyone speaks, but few listen. Wisdom waits, fools rush. The words of a whisperer are like tasty morsels. They go down to the inmost parts. Gossip feels harmless, but it devours reputations. It destroys unity, and God hears every syllable. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love it will eat its fruit. Every sentence is a seed, and in time it becomes harvest. Blessing or cursing, what will your words yield? The chapter ends with a jewel. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Wisdom flows into relationships, into covenant, into family. But it begins with honor, with reverence, with self-control. And without wisdom, even love turns to ash. Better is the poor who walks in integrity than one who is perverse in speech and is a fool. Solomon exalts character over condition, because what you are matters more than what you own, and wisdom doesn't bow to wealth. Desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses the way. Rushing is not progress, it's a gamble. Many move quickly, only to arrive in ruin. True direction begins in the soul, not the feet. A person's folly leads to their ruin, yet their heart rages against the Lord, blaming God for self-made consequences. It's the oldest story since Eden, but Solomon demands ownership before grace can rebuild. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. This is not escape from suffering, but refuge within it. To fear God rightly is to fear nothing else. Even the storm obeys him. Listen to advice and accept instruction, that you may gain wisdom in the future. The future belongs to the teachable. Correction is painful, but it saves. And delay, though frustrating, is often divine protection.
Wine is a mocker, strong drink a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. Solomon addresses addiction with brutal clarity, not as a pleasure, but as a deceiver. It promises escape, but delivers slavery. The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. Every soul holds hidden wells, but only wisdom dares lower the rope. To know a person takes patience and discernment. It is a trap to dedicate something rashly, and only later consider one's vows. Even in worship, foolishness can enter. Holy words spoken in haste dishonor heaven, and promises made without thought end in regret. Man's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand their own way? This is not fate, but mystery. God governs paths unseen, and our journey, though confusing, is never random. Blows that wound cleanse away evil, and beatings purge the inmost being. This verse is severe, but Solomon speaks of discipline, not cruelty. Correction, though painful, refines the soul. The king's heart is a stream of water. In the hand of the Lord, he turns it wherever he will. Even the highest authority bows to heaven. No throne is too high. No ruler is outside divine influence. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes. But the Lord weighs the heart. Motives matter more than methods. You may deceive men, but not God. And justice begins with inward truth. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Ceremony without compassion is hypocrisy. God desires hearts that love justice, not just lips that offer prayers. Real worship costs more than rituals. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. There is a terrifying symmetry in this verse. Neglect echoes back, and mercy withheld becomes judgment received. There is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. The chapter ends with sovereignty, undeniable and absolute.
A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Reputation echoes into eternity. Riches rust, but honor survives death. And the wise invest in what cannot be stolen. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. This is not a guarantee, it is a pattern. Formation begins early and roots run deep. A child trained in truth resists the storm of lies. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Solomon lays bare the chains of debt. Even in freedom, bondage exists. Wisdom avoids the noose of false abundance. Do not exploit the poor because they are poor, and do not crush the needy in court, for the Lord will take up their case. God stands beside the oppressed and against their oppressors. He is both judge and advocate. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. Character is contagious. You become what you behold. Choose your company with trembling. When you sit to dine with a ruler, note well what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are given to gluttony. Solomon's metaphor is sharp. Pleasure, unrestrained, becomes your assassin. Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your own cleverness. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly to the sky like an eagle. Chasing wealth is chasing wind. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with the rod, he will not die. Though harsh to modern ears, this is not abuse. It is formation. Pain that teaches is mercy in disguise. To abandon discipline is to abandon love. Let your heart envy not sinners, but live in the fear of the Lord always. Envy is a slow poison. It disguises itself as admiration, but wisdom keeps its eyes on eternity. Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. Indulgence destroys silently, one feast at a time. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Homes, like souls, are shaped by what they hold inside. Do not gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, do not let your heart rejoice, or the Lord will see and disapprove. Justice belongs to God, not to our vengeance. Even victory must be clothed in humility. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief. Laziness is not just inaction, it is an invitation. An empty schedule births ruin. The righteous may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. Resilience is not perfection, it's covenant. The righteous rise because God holds their soul. Falling is never the end, unless you refuse to stand. Fear the Lord and the King, my son, and do not join with rebellious officials, for those two will send sudden destruction. Solomon warns against revolutions of pride. God and his appointed order are not to be challenged lightly.
It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings to search it out. There is mystery in the divine, and majesty in the pursuit of wisdom. The unseen shapes the scene. Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel. So too, remove the wicked from the king's presence, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Purity sustains power, evil undermines it. Do not exalt yourself in the king's presence, and do not claim a place among great men. Better to be invited up than cast down. Pride positions itself only to be publicly humbled. The wise wait to be called. Through patience, a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone. Strength isn't always loud. A whisper can carry more force than a shout. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to hold silence. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. No matter the wealth, charisma, or strength, without restraint, the soul collapses. Self-governance is the foundation of all governance. Like snow in summer or rain in harvest, honor is not fitting for a fool. It disrupts the order of things. To lift a fool is to arm destruction. Foolishness dressed as glory becomes dangerous. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. There is no growth without repentance. Cycles reveal hearts. Wisdom leaves the past behind. The sluggard says, "There's a lion in the road." Excuses become his gospel. Fear masquerades as wisdom, but it only shields laziness. The lazy build thrones made of what-ifs. Like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. Not every battle is yours to fight. Wisdom walks away where fools rush in. Silence is sometimes the bravest answer. Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives his neighbor and says, "I was only joking." Jokes can be weapons. Sarcasm hides daggers in laughter. God weighs the heart behind every word.
Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Control is an illusion. Each breath is a gift, not a guarantee. Boasting tempts judgment. Let someone else praise you and not your own mouth, an outsider and not your own lips. True glory is revealed, never declared. Praise yourself and it rots. Be silent and let your fruit speak. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Love does not always soothe. Sometimes it cuts to heal. A true friend bleeds you to save you. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Friction creates brilliance. Conflict, tempered by love, refines character. Isolation is where dullness grows. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Flattery is a fire, and only the humble endure it unburned. What lifts you up may also reveal your cracks. The wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Guilt creates its own predator, but innocence walks with open eyes. Fear is often a shadow of the soul. When a country is rebellious, it has many rulers, but a ruler with discernment and knowledge maintains order. Stability is the fruit of wisdom. Fools destabilize nations. One just man can preserve a kingdom. Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper,
but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Hiding multiplies chains. Secrets breed sickness, but confession unlocks healing. Those who lead the upright along an evil path will fall into their own trap, but the blameless will receive a good inheritance. Digging pits for others only uncovers your own grave. A greedy man stirs up conflict, but the one who trusts in the Lord will prosper. Money deceives. Greed makes gods of gold, but trust in God births true abundance.
When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. Leadership shapes the spirit of a nation. Righteousness breeds freedom. Wickedness suffocates the soul. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire. Correction is not cruelty, it is cultivation. The undisciplined grow wild and devour what nurtured them. A servant cannot be corrected by mere words. Though he understands, he will not respond. There is a time for teaching and a time for consequence. Wisdom knows both. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. People-pleasing is a trap. It trades truth for approval, but God's eyes are steadier than the crowds. Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. Vision anchors a soul. Without divine insight, chaos reigns. Prophecy keeps the people tethered to eternity. I am the most ignorant of men. I do not have human understanding. So begins the wisdom of Agur. Not with confidence, but confession. Not with answers, but awe. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered the wind? The divine is unreachable, except through revelation, and the revealed is enough. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Scripture is not to be altered. It is both fire and shelter. Add nothing, lest you be exposed as a liar. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but only my daily bread. Too much, and we forget God. Too little, and we curse him. Contentment is the rarest wealth. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, 4 that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, the desert, and fire. Desire unrestrained is a consuming flame. Only God can satisfy the endless appetite of man.
The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance, his mother taught him in quiet moments, a queen's wisdom echoing in a king's ear, a mother's voice, gentle yet eternal. Her words weigh more than gold. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. Even rulers fall to seduction. Pleasure is not worth a kingdom. A moment of weakness births centuries of ruin. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those in anguish. A king must remain sober, to defend the defenseless, to remember the voiceless. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Power is for protection, not pride. The throne is not a platform, it is a burden. Leadership is not privilege, but sacrifice. Then, the woman of noble character, more precious than rubies, clothed in strength and dignity. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction. Her children rise and call her blessed.